Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone's having a wonderful weekend. It is Sunday, February the 20th. It's about 6:30 p.m. here in Toronto. I'm your wealth guy. Let's talk money. Let's talk Sunday market preview for the week. But before we talk about this week, why don't we talk about last week so that we can learn from last week to see what to look for this week as far as patterns are concerned. Because last week we saw a lot of fear trading in the market. And I mean a lot of fear trading. And you can tell typically, as I've mentioned before, if you've seen me on some of the other medias, social media that's out there, as I've mentioned, one of the big giveaways was that the 10-year yield was dropping while the US dollar was going up and the markets were tanking. And that's a big indication that we were actually in a fear trade, especially for much of the week. But this week, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Where I think, especially for the early part of the week, fear will probably continue to move the markets to the downside. And even if we look specifically, it's not so much fear driven out of necessarily the Ukraine and Russia themselves, but more the American narrative. Because you see, the Ukraine has stated they don't anticipate Russia to attack. Russia has said they're not going to attack, but the US is very insistent that they will. So that's something to keep in mind. Who knows what's going to happen down the road? That could be a trigger or a comment suggesting something. I don't know. But make sure that your portfolio is well diversified and hedged in case bullets do fly. But the rest of the week, I think, for the most part, assuming fear remains relatively in check, there's not really a heck of a lot of other red flags out there to potentially move the markets down. So, excuse me. So, my belief is if fear goes back into check, the markets will continue to run up. Now, saying that, I do believe that crude will have its bounce and will continue the longer trend, not the short trend that we saw last week where crude was dropping at $2 a day, but more of the longer trend. I think crude will continue to march upwards. That is the plan. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw crude get well into the $100 range. Not immediately, but by mid-spring, I think it's very possible. The other thing I want to take a look at very specifically is actually the precious metals market, because gold is now comfortably over 1900, sitting at about 1907 today, and silver starting to actually move, sitting over $24, which is great for both of them. Ideally, now I want to see that $24 hold for silver, and that could be very positive for the short term, even though I'm actually more bullish for Q3 and 4 on silver as well as gold. But if it comes early, I'm not complaining. Now, cryptocurrencies this week. Boy, last week we saw some positives and then we saw a lot of negatives by the end of the week. And tonight, excuse me, Bitcoin is currently trading at about 38,000, actually just over 38,000. A bit concerning for crypto as we see the downtrend continue or come back, that we had a short bump. I'm still never overly confident in crypto right now. I'm just not seeing a lot of reasons for it to actually pop. Now, if bullets fly, then that's a whole different story. We may actually see crypto pull back a little bit first before we see a very significant bounce as equity markets start to bleed out. And they will bleed out if there is some kind of actual armed conflict that gets triggered. Now, keep in mind, if that does happen and we do see armed conflict, the drop down will only be a short-term thing. I do believe that the bounce will be rather strong and it will be quick. So we'll see an aggressive drop and it will be aggressive, and then a very quick aggressive rebound to the upside, because fear is a big motivator down, but greed is a great motivator for the upside. And again, that's more medium term. That's only in the event that we do see actual armed conflict breakout overseas. But as far as crypto is concerned, I think it'll follow the same trend. We'll see a quick drop before a very aggressive push to the upside as people try to run to find alternative investment strategies at that point. But that's it, everybody. I think it's going to be a red week overall, especially up till midweek. We'll see what happens as economic reportings continue. And I don't anticipate any economic reporting to be very positive anymore. Not that I have for months and months and months, if not the last couple of years. But overall, that's it, everybody. I will see you on Monday morning at the opening bell.